You have to wonder, what if your own generosity, the love you show your family, could be turned into a weapon against you? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about here. This is a story about a matriarch whose kindness was so immense it ended up funding her own murder. All right, so let's get into it. We're heading to Monaco, the glittering playground for the world's billionaires, a place so safe, so secure that a crime this violent was basically unthinkable. But this isn't just a simple murder mystery. This is about the implosion of a dynasty. Our story kicks off with a bang, literally. An act of violence so shocking it completely shattered the peaceful image of this billionaire's paradise. It was brazen, it was public, and it was brutally effective. So, picture this. It's the evening of May 6th, 2014. Alain Pasteur, a 77-year-old billionaire, is leaving a hospital in Nice. She's just been visiting her son, something she did every day. She gets into her minivan with her longtime chauffeur, and just as they pull away from the curb, a man steps out of the shadows, holding a sawed-off shotgun. 2 deafening blasts. That's all it took. The passenger window just explodes. The attack is savage, direct. Elaine is critically injured, and so is her chauffeur. The gunman just drops his weapon and vanishes. In the chaos that followed, one huge question hung in the air. Who on earth would dare to assassinate Elaine Pasteur, the unofficial vice princess of Monaco? To get that, you first have to understand the sheer scale of the empire she ran. See, Helene Pasteur wasn't just some rich lady living in Monaco. In a lot of ways, her family built modern Monaco. Their name was practically synonymous with wealth and power, second only to the actual royal family. They were supposed to be untouchable. And it's a classic rags to riches story. It all starts back in the 1880s with an Italian stonemason who came to Monaco with literally nothing. His son had the incredible foresight to start buying up seemingly worthless beachfront land after World War II. But here's the masterstroke. In 1966, Prince Rainier, Grace Kelly's husband, gave the family permission to build high-rises. And that's when they made their golden rule. Build, but never, ever sell. Just collect the rent, forever. And boy, did they collect. That one simple strategy built a family fortune that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. The best guess? Their real estate empire was worth around 20 billion euros. And we're not talking numbers in a bank account. This was all physical property. The family owned over 4,000 different apartments and buildings. Okay, to put that number in perspective, because it's just nuts, their properties made up 15% of all the residential buildings in the entire country of Monaco. They didn't just play the market, they were the market. And Elaine was the formidable matriarch in charge of it all. She was a tough businesswoman, but also kind of quirky. She famously drove a vintage London taxi around Monte Carlo. But here's the absolute key to this whole story. She was fiercely devoted to her 2 kids, Sylvia and Gildo. So devoted, she gave each of them a monthly allowance of €500,000. Just let that sink in. 500 grand, tax-free, wired to your account every single month. It was a financial umbilical cord. And that lifeline? Well, someone else was grabbing onto it for dear life. Yeah, because that €500,000 allowance wasn't just going to her daughter, Sylvia. For nearly 3 decades, it was also funding the incredibly lavish lifestyle of Sylvia's partner, a man named Wojciech Janowski. Now, on the surface, this Janowski guy looked like the perfect fit. He was charming, he was sophisticated, he was a big deal in Monaco's high society. He told people he went to Cambridge, ran a huge oil company, he was even a diplomat for Poland. The whole shebang. The only problem? It was all a lie. A complete house of cards. His degree was fake, his oil empire was a single bankrupt refinery, and that diplomatic title? Just an unpaid ceremonial gig he used to look important. The guy was a total fraud. He was a financial parasite, pure and simple, living his entire life off the allowance Helene gave Sylvia. And he wasn't just spending her money, he was actively stealing it. He'd doctor an invoice for a yacht and skim €1,000,000 for himself. He secretly took out a mortgage on an apartment Helene had bought for their own daughter. He even lied about his kids' tuition costs to pocket an extra $250,000 a year. For 28 years, he had the perfect setup. So you have to ask, right? Why risk it all? The guy was living a life most people can't even dream of, all on someone else's dime. Why escalate from comfortable fraud to cold-blooded murder? What could possibly have changed? This is what changed. In 2012, Sylvia was diagnosed with cancer. Now, for any normal person, that's a horrible tragedy. For Wojciech Janowski, it was a business problem. It was a ticking clock. See, his entire world was paid for by that allowance. He had no money of his own. So he did the cold, brutal math. If Sylvia dies before her mother, the allowance stops, the money faucet turns off. And just like that, Helene Pastor's life became a threat. She had to die first. So Janowski, this master con artist, sets a murder plot in motion. But this is where the story gets really wild. For a conspiracy involving billions of dollars, the actual hit was carried out with, well, let's just say an unbelievable level of incompetence. I mean, it was pure amateur hour. The two hitmen he hired made every mistake in the book. For starters, they took a taxi to and from the murder scene. They left their DNA all over their hotel room, including on a bottle of shower gel, of all things. And the real kicker? They used their own personal cell phones the entire time. It was like they were literally leaving a digital trail of breadcrumbs for the police to follow. But here's the most heartbreaking part of the whole investigation. Helene actually held on for a few days in the hospital. She even woke up and was able to speak to the police. Her first words were, "I'm scared." And then she said, "I have other things to say." She was ready to talk, but before she could say what she knew, she passed away. The police were inches away from cracking the case right then and there. As it turned out, they didn't really need her testimony. The killer's trail of blunders was like a giant neon sign pointing directly back to the man who paid them. The case quickly turned into a massive courtroom drama that would lay all the Pastor family's secrets bare for the world to see. In court, Janowski played the part perfectly. Cool, calm, impeccably dressed. He'd confessed right after his arrest, but now he was taking it all back, claiming the police had tricked him. With total arrogance, he looked the prosecutors in the eye and dared them, "Show me the proof." And, well, they were more than happy to obey. The prosecution just buried him under an avalanche of evidence. They showed the bank records of 200,000 euros moving from his accounts to pay for the hit. They had a full confession from the middleman. Get this, it was his own personal trainer who spelled out the entire plot. They had the DNA from the shower gel, the phone records, the taxi driver's testimony, and then the knockout punch. They played the videotape of his own confession where he calmly admitted he'd asked his trainer to resolve the problem. After all that, the verdict was pretty much a slam dunk. The jury saw it for exactly what it was: cold, calculated greed. Wojciech Janowski, the Prince of Lies, was sentenced to life in prison. The gunman and the lookout got the same. His 28-year con was finally over. It's just an unbelievable arc when you think about it. A dynasty that started with a poor stonemason's hard work, built into a multi-billion-euro empire over a century, all torn apart from the inside. It's a story that just goes to show no amount of money can protect you from human greed. And it's a chilling reminder that a gift, even one given out of pure love, can become the ultimate motive for murder.